I'm Kirtop, and these are the 100 most unusual discoveries made by archaeologists in the 21st century. The most terrifying tribe. Traveler and blogger Daniel Pinto caused quite a stir by posting a video of the Vai tribe from Papua New Guinea. In the video, which has gathered over 17 million views, he shows his encounter with the silent members of the tribe guarding a sacred waterfall. The Vai people are dressed in costumes made of mud and clay, and their masks resemble spirit birds with long noses and fierce expressions. They protect the waterfall from outsiders, and they seem quite content. However, viewers doubted the authenticity of the video. Some commenters claimed that the most fearsome tribe would never let a blogger get so close. Others joke that their costumes look like fashionable outfits. Despite the controversy, the video has attracted tourists' attention to the region. Now, travel agencies mention Vai as a tourist destination, offering guests eco-lodges and an introduction to the tribe's culture. And what do you think? Is this tribe real, or just another way to attract naive tourists? Write your opinion in the comments below the video. The iconic collection Misa in Missoina Agenda Defunctorum from 1733 is a rare artifact from the early 18th century, created for conducting funeral services. This unique collection, used by priests for reading prayers at the altar, stands out not only for its content, but also for its dark symbolism in design. The book's binding is decorated with an image of a skull and crossbones, emphasizing its purpose in rituals related to death and remembrance. The collection includes chants and texts of the Latin liturgy that were used for the repose of the souls of the deceased. The skull symbolism on the cover reflects the contemporary notion of the transience of existence and a reminder of the inevitability of death, themes characteristic of the Baroque era. Such books were works of art, symbolizing the mystique and grandeur of Catholic rituals. Bindings with this symbolism were often made for churches or noble families wanting to highlight their religious ties.
Связь с религиозной традицией.
The collection was probably used in a monastery or chapel, serving as a reminder of the need to pray for the repose of souls. A man out of time, Michel Siffre became a pioneer in the study of time and the workings of the human mind. His experiments impressed scientists so much that even NASA used their results. In 1962, 23-year-old Siffre spent 2 months in complete isolation in a cave, giving up clocks and sunlight. He wanted to find out how the body perceives time without external cues. It turned out that a person in an unusual 24-hour cycle switches to a 48-hour rhythm, and time feels different. 5 minutes seem like 2. 10 years later, he repeated the experiment, spending half a year in a cave in Texas. His discoveries became the foundation of chronobiology and helped prepare astronauts for long missions. A book with a surprise, a Bible with a secret compartment for a firearm, is a unique combination of religious text and the art of weaponry. This unusual artifact was made for the Venetian Doge Francesco Morosini in the 17th century. The secret mechanism allowed a miniature firearm to be hidden inside the book, and the silk bookmark served as the trigger. It's hard to say whether Morosini used this Bible for its intended purpose, but he was known for his sharp mind and caution, which may have contributed to his long life. The Doge lived to be 74 years old, which was quite a respectable age for that time. This Bible combined the engineering skill of the era and shows how powerful people of that time sought to combine means of self-defense with everyday objects. Heracleion, once one of the greatest ports of ancient Egypt, disappeared underwater after a devastating earthquake in the 1st century BC. Its existence was long considered a myth until the French archaeologist Frank Godiot discovered the lost city in the early 2000s in Abu Qir Bay, near the modern coast of Egypt. The most remarkable discovery was a massive black granite slab on which the name of the city and details of its connection to the ancient Egyptian gods were inscribed. Along with the slab, archaeologists found dozens of sunken ships, remarkably well-preserved statues, temples, and numerous artifacts, including jewelry, coins, and personal belongings of the inhabitants. Excavations are ongoing, and each discovered object sheds light on the role of Heracleion as a major center of trade and religious life. The city, submerged in the depths of the sea, remains a reminder of how natural disasters can forever change the course of history. The remains of Jesus' brother. In Israel, a 2,000-year-old ossuary was discovered with the inscription, "James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus." This sparked fierce debates. It is possible that the box held the remains of James the Just, the first bishop of Jerusalem and the brother of Jesus. Today, this artifact is on display in Atlanta among 350 ancient relics from the time of Christ. However, its authenticity remains in question. The owner of the ossuary, collector Oded Golan, was accused of forging the inscription, with claims that he added the phrase, "brother of Jesus." But after years of legal proceedings, the charges were dropped, although the judge clarified that this does not prove the authenticity of the artifact. If the inscription is genuine, the ossuary would become the oldest physical evidence of the existence of Jesus. In the 1st century, Jews stored the bones of the deceased in limestone boxes, so the discovery of such an ossuary is not surprising. In 2017, another artifact connected to him was found, an ancient text, the first apocalypse of James. It says that Jesus gave his brother secret knowledge, including predictions of his death. This text was banned because it did not conform to the canonical New Testament. Melted steps. The staircase in the Temple of Hathor in Dendera raises many questions among archaeologists and researchers. These steps, located in one of the best preserved temples of ancient Egypt, look as if they were exposed to incredibly high temperatures, which could have caused their deformation and partial melting. On the surface of the steps, there are unusual bends and sunken stone areas that are not typical of ordinary wear and tear of stone structures. There are various theories that try to explain this phenomenon. One of the hypotheses suggests that the steps could have been damaged as a result of some unknown thermal impact, such as ritual fires or processes related to ancient technologies. Another theory points to possible construction errors. If the stones for the steps were formed directly on site from a liquid solution, then interrupting the hardening process could have led to an incorrect shape and softness of the material. Scientists are still studying this phenomenon, adding yet another mystery to the rich legacy of ancient Egypt. Knights versus snails. Medieval manuscripts are not only sources of knowledge, but also a real treasure trove of mysterious and amusing illustrations. Among them, marginalia deserves special attention, strange drawings in the margins of manuscripts, and one of the most curious themes found in English and French books of the 13th and 14th centuries is the battle between a knight and a snail. Why did monks copying books need to depict such an absurd scene? One explanation is simple boredom. Monks entertained themselves by decorating pages with grotesque drawings, and over time, this became a kind of art. But such illustrations could also have hidden meanings. Perhaps the snails symbolized cowardice. Like a knight in armor, it hides in its shell. Some historians think this satirizes the aristocracy's slowness, or mocks certain political issues. Whatever the case, these strange scenes still spark debates among researchers, and the battle between the knight and the snail remains one of the most mysterious medieval miniatures. The pink sarcophagus of the treasurer. A dream discovery. That's exactly what archaeologists call the sarcophagus they managed to find near Cairo. As you know, sarcophagi were used to hold very important people of ancient Egypt. It seems to me that the ancient Egyptians buried a high-ranking nobleman 3,300 years ago, clearly not so that we would now take him out of the tomb and study him with modern equipment. But how else can we study the history of our ancestors if the papyri don't contain all the information about the lives of the pharaohs? Scientists have already determined that the pink sarcophagus belonged to Ta-em-Wea, who served as the head of the treasury under Ramses the Great. The sarcophagus is decorated with hieroglyphs and various titles on all sides. It lay at a depth of 10 meters for more than 3,000 years, and now it looks just like it did on the first day. Historians have little information about who ruled Egypt after Tutankhamun, so every discovery is important. The pink sarcophagus indicates that the person buried in it was close to the king and played a very important role in the government system of that time. To put it simply in modern terms, Ta-em-Wea would be the Minister of Finance in today's world. To reach the tomb, archaeologists had to dig through and remove tons of sand. And that was only the first level of the tomb, which was located next to the pyramid of King Unas. Under the sand, they discovered stone masonry. And to go further down to the second level of the tomb, they had to reinforce the masonry. Through a small opening in the floor, they descended to the second level of the tomb, where the sarcophagus was located. The archaeologists descended in a metal basket, lowering and hoisting themselves by their own strength. It would seem that with such technology in the 21st century, excavations still have to be carried out the same way as 200 years ago. The condition of the sarcophagus was good, but the broken lid indicated the presence of looters. Usually, different people were reburied in sarcophagi. However, in our case, the sarcophagus belonged to its first owner. This is confirmed by both the hieroglyphs and the titles found on the sarcophagus. Professor Elagizi's team is now thoroughly studying the sarcophagus to uncover the entire life of Ta Emwia. And around the same time, people on the Mariana Islands were luring octopuses. A rare giant book. Before you is one of 12 giant books from the 18th century written in Spanish. Its size is impressive, almost a meter long. These books were created for religious ceremonies and contain detailed scripts of worship services, leather binding, wooden covers, pages made from tanned animal skin. All this made the book not only durable, but also a symbol of the church's grandeur. Such manuscripts were intended for use in churches, where clergy and the choir could read the text from a distance. That's why the letters are so large. Today, this rarity is kept at the National Autonomous University of Mexico. Scientists and restorers carefully study it, trying to preserve it in its original form. These books are a real window into the past, allowing us to see what liturgical texts looked like and what the attitude toward writing was in the era of colonial Latin America. Halloumi cheese, 2,600 years old. How can you show archaeological finds and not talk about ancient Egypt? So, in the Saqqara necropolis, archaeologists discovered a fermented dairy product that we are used to seeing on store shelves these days. Halloumi cheese, 2,600 years old, was found in ancient clay vessels. Each vessel had demotic inscriptions, which is one of the forms of ancient Egyptian writing. Archaeologists studied some of the vessels and confirmed that they contained halloumi. All the vessels were taken to the laboratory, where they will be studied in more detail. I understand that some cheeses become more expensive and tastier as they age, but I wouldn't try such an expensive cheese. In ancient Egypt, the cheese was originally called karam, but nowadays it is called kaloum or halloumi. There is another version of the origin of cheese. Some historians claim that it first appeared during the Byzantine period on the island of Cyprus. This cheese melts at a high temperature, so it is often cooked on the grill. And from Egypt, we will move to Southeast Asia, where the oldest forest awaits us. The real truth about the woolly mammoth. Mammoths are always associated with the Ice Age, endless tundra steppes and primitive hunters fighting for survival. But behind the legendary image is a different reality. In reality, the woolly mammoth was not the largest, and not even the first to conquer America. The woolly mammoth could reach a height of up to 3.5 meters. But the African elephant is taller, up to 4 meters, and even among its relatives, it was smaller in size. Columbian, imperial, and steppe mammoths could reach 5 meters in height and weigh up to 13 tons. However, the woolly mammoth surpassed them in width and the density of its fur. This made its survival in glacial conditions more successful. Besides, it was not the first to reach America. Before it, southern mammoths and their descendants, the Columbian mammoths, already lived there. The woolly mammoth was unable to displace them and remained only in the northern territories. But despite all this, it was the most numerous and influential species. Its population numbered in the tens of thousands, and its habitat stretched from the Arctic Ocean to Mexico. Even after going extinct, mammoths left a huge mark on history. Hundreds of thousands of tons of their remains are still preserved in the permafrost, and their tusks were used in trade even more than African elephant ivory. Ice Age art. The mammoth from the Alb-Donau region in Germany is one of the oldest examples of Ice Age art. It dates back about 35,000 years. This miniature figurine is carved from mammoth ivory, which in itself is a testament to the skill and artistic sensibility of prehistoric people. Discovered in the 1930s, the artifact became an important link in the study of early human art. The uniqueness of this piece lies not only in its age, but also in its level of detail. You can see notches on the surface of the figurine. They may be symbolic or decorative, which adds an element of mystery to the artifact. They could be early examples of communication or spiritual beliefs of ancient people. Archaeologists suggest that such figurines might have been used for ritual purposes, serving as talismans for hunters or symbols of luck. The mammoth, symbolizing strength and endurance, probably played an important role in the worldview of primitive tribes. A luxurious, meaningless event. Ballingham is a small village in England, but it was here, 500 years ago, that one of the most lavish gatherings in history took place. The King of England, Henry VIII, and the French monarch, Francis I, held a grand celebration that went down in history as the Field of the Cloth of Gold. The official meeting was meant to strengthen the alliance between the two kings against Emperor Charles V, but it actually became a contest of luxury. Henry built a gigantic tent palace covering 10,000 square meters. Its walls were brick at the base and painted to look like stone above. The roof resembled tiles, and at the entrance, there were fountains pouring red wine. The celebration lasted for 18 days, accompanied by feasts, tournaments, and masquerades. Each king was accompanied by 3,500 attendants, for whom 98,000 eggs, 2,200 sheep, and even exotic dishes like guinea pig and dolphin were prepared. But even amid the luxury, rivalry prevailed. Henry challenged Francis to a wrestling match and lost. Soon he formed an alliance with Charles V, and a year later, England was at war with him. The Field of the Cloth of Gold became a symbol of the incredible extravagance that bankrupted the treasuries of both kingdoms. A casket with a combination lock. This is a unique artifact from the 12th century created by Iranian craftsmen. This exquisite object not only served as a container, but also demonstrated the outstanding engineering skills of its time. The casket is equipped with 4 double dials, each with 16 positions. The combination of all possible settings creates an impressive number of combinations, 16 to the power of 8 or 4,294,967,296. This made the casket extremely reliable, since it was almost impossible to crack the code. The materials used to make this item include brass, gold, and silver. The ornamentation and Arabic inscription highlight the craftsmanship's sophistication and reflect the owner's high status. The casket is now kept in the Copenhagen Museum, where it attracts visitors' attention as an outstanding example of technology and decorative art of the medieval East. Its creation date is estimated to be around the year 1200. A curious discovery in Egypt. In Egypt, 2 divers found unique artifacts from the Greco-Roman period, retrieving hundreds of ancient relics from the seabed. However, instead of handing the finds over to the authorities, they tried to keep them for themselves. The artifacts were found in Abu Qir Bay, off the coast of Alexandria, in the place where the sunken cities of Heracleion and Canopus were once located. As a result of the police operation, 448 items were seized from the divers, 305 coins, 53 statuettes, 41 axes, 14 bronze bowls, 12 spears, and even 3 heads from ancient statues. The coins are decorated with images of animals, lions, elephants, turtles, dolphins, as well as Pegasus, the legendary winged horse. Many of the bronze artifacts are covered with a turquoise patina due to centuries spent underwater. According to the examination, the finds date from 500 BC to 400 AD, covering the reign of the Ptolemaic dynasty and the subsequent rule of Rome. The divers are suspected of attempting theft and possibly concealing some of the artifacts. The crucifixion of Christ in a ring. This incredible ring, dating to around 1620, is a true masterpiece of miniature art. Under the glass, there is a detailed depiction of the crucifixion scene. It is made of ivory. Every figure, from the Roman soldiers to the spectators present at the execution, is carved with stunning precision. Special attention is drawn to the tiny crosses and the figure of the cross, which emphasizes the drama of the scene. It is believed that the ring was made in France or Spain countries where religious art was highly developed during this period. It is possible that this piece of jewelry belonged to a high-ranking religious figure or a wealthy aristocrat, for whom it served not only as an ornament, but also as a symbol of faith. Such items were often used as personal relics, reminding their owners of the suffering and sacrifice of Christ. The mystical atmosphere of this artifact is enhanced by the question, how did the craftsman manage to create such tiny details without modern tools? It seems as if this ring is the result not only of human skill, but also of inspiration that may have been granted from above. Panther tank in the basement. In 2015, an event occurred in Germany that caused a huge public and media outcry. In the basement garage of a private house, a Panther tank from World War II was discovered, as well as a number of other military artifacts related to Nazi Germany. The Panther, considered one of the most powerful and effective tanks of its time, is a rare exhibit and a subject of special interest for historians and collectors. Along with the tank, an anti-tank gun, a torpedo, and numerous other military items were found in the garage, each of which is a testament to the technological progress and military efforts of Nazi Germany. The discovery became possible thanks to an anonymous tip, after which the police and military experts conducted a search that led to this unusual find. Turning people in Germany is, one could say, part of German culture. However, it is surprising how the owner of such a huge military arsenal managed to hide a tank in his basement for 70 years. The homeowner, an elderly man, was a history enthusiast and is believed to have collected these items over many years. The question of the origin of the tank and other items, as well as how they were brought into the basement, has sparked much debate among experts. The judicial authorities face the task of determining whether the owner had broken the law by possessing such items, especially given the strictness of German legislation regarding symbols and artifacts from the Nazi era. For many, this case served as a reminder that even decades after the end of the war, its echoes can still be felt in our modern world, sometimes in the most unexpected and astonishing forms. And how much more military equipment and weaponry from those years is still stored in basements and cellars across Germany. An artifact with a secret inscription. British teenager Lucas Cunliffe made an archaeological discovery while walking with his father in northern England. With the help of a metal detector, he discovered the pommel of a medieval sword, which is over 700 years old. Experts claim that this late 13th century artifact is a real rarity. An inscription in Latin letters is engraved on the bronze handle, Jesus, King of the Jews. Historical weapons specialist Paul MacDonald noted that there are only 7 such finds, and all of them were found in Scotland. Historians suggest that this sword was used during the time of the Scottish Wars of Independence. It is possible that it is even connected to the era of Robert Bruce, the legendary King of Scotland. The oldest heart. A new archaeological discovery has come to us from Australia. Although earlier it could have swum here, we're talking about the oldest fossilized heart of a living creature ever found. It's the heart of a fish, and it's 380 million years old. Previously, scientists could only study the anatomy of ancient organs based on the skeletal system, since the soft tissues of fossilized animals almost never survive to our time. This time, scientists were very lucky. The heart belongs to a group of armored fish, one of the species of Arthrodires. These creatures lived on our planet between 420 and 360 million years ago. They were among the first vertebrate animals to develop jaws. In addition to the heart, scientists managed to discover the stomach, intestines, and liver of the ancient fish. The most interesting thing is that all the organs were in their original positions, and for hundreds of millions of years, they were not crushed by heavy rocks. Discovering the organs of a fish in their pristine state is an incredible miracle for the scientific world. This helped scientists see how evolution took place and what the anatomy of fish looked like about 400 million years ago, as if they were studying a freshly caught fish. Based on the fossils found, they created the first 3D model of the Arthrodires heart. The researchers stated that the anatomy of ancient fish was not very different from that of humans, and if you have, let's say, $25 million, you can buy yourself the skeleton of a very ancient creature. A brewery from the time of Egypt's first rulers. Archaeologists have discovered the world's oldest brewery, located in the necropolis of Abydos, Egypt. This discovery not only sheds light on early brewing technologies, but also helps us understand how resources were managed during the construction of the pyramids. The complex consists of 8 massive installations, each up to 20 meters long. Each one contains 2 rows of 40 vessels, which were used to heat a mixture of grain and water. It's the classic beer brewing process. Scientists date the brewery to the era of Pharaoh Narmer, who is considered the founder of the first dynasty. Dr. Adams, who led the research, described this discovery as industrial-scale production and noted that it shows a high level of labor organization in ancient Egypt. The ability to manage the mass distribution of resources and organize the workforce allowed the Egyptians to build grand structures, including the pyramids. In addition, beer played an important role in rituals. Large-scale production in Abydos indicates its use in sacrifices, ceremonies, and rituals, which confirms its significance in the development of Egyptian royal power. Ancient labyrinth. Modern remote sensing methods provide archaeology with new tools for understanding the past. One vivid example is the study of the surroundings of Rujm al-Hiri, an ancient complex of stone circles to the northeast of the Sea of Galilee. This mysterious monument clearly demonstrates how satellite images allow us to look at the landscape from a completely different perspective. Scientists analyzed photos of the area within a 30-kilometer radius and discovered numerous megalithic structures, massive circles with thick walls, and mysterious flower-shaped enclosures near rivers. According to one hypothesis, all of them could have been elements of irrigation, defense, or livestock enclosures. In addition, the images show burial mounds of various shapes and sizes. These could possibly be burial sites or signal mounds. The results of the geological measurements are no less intriguing. It seems that the territory itself has shifted over the past millennium, which has cast doubt on the hypothesis about the astronomical purpose of Rujm al-Hiri. The satellite image reveals the multi-layered nature of the construction, an archaeological palimpsest, where later structures were built on top of earlier ones. Such studies open a door to the distant past. By comparing satellite data with excavation results and geophysical analyses, scientists hope to reconstruct the life of the ancient inhabitants of the Levant and better understand why they built such monumental stone labyrinths and surrounded them with complex agricultural systems. Birth certificate. Here is one of the oldest birth certificates, created more than 4,000 years ago in the Sumerian civilization. It consists of 2 clay tablets. One is covered with cuneiform writing, and the other bears the imprint of a child's foot. In ancient Mesopotamia, such tablets were used as official documents confirming a person's birth. The cuneiform text probably contains the child's name, the parents' names, the date of birth, and possibly even astrological information, while the footprint served as a kind of personal signature, a unique way to identify the infant. This artifact shows how advanced the bureaucratic systems were in Sumer. Even then, people understood the importance of documentation, and such records could be used to confirm inheritance or social rights. This is a real window into the ancient world, which seems so distant, but in some ways is very similar to ours. The burial in the Katyn forest. The discovery of mass graves in the Katyn forest near Smolensk in Russia still causes a lot of controversy. In 1943, German troops advancing on the Soviet Union discovered numerous graves of Polish officers. The Soviet Union denied its involvement, claiming that the Nazis were to blame for everything, according to the official Western account. In 1940, by order of the highest leadership of the USSR, thousands of Polish officers, police officers, scientists, and public figures who had been taken prisoner during the Soviet invasion of Poland in September 1939 were executed. These mass killings carried out by the NKVD became known as the Katyn Massacre. This discovery caused a wide international outcry and became an important argument in accusing the Stalinist regime of committing war crimes. For Poland, Katyn became a symbol of national tragedy and betrayal by the Soviet government, which they had previously seen as an ally. However, not everything is so clear-cut. There is also another opinion, supported by documents, regarding this tragic event. In 1943, when the Nazis were defeated in the Battle of Stalingrad, the leadership of the Third Reich particularly the powerful propaganda machine led by Goebbels, wanted to create internal division. The Nazis themselves executed the Polish officers and then supposedly discovered them. This was done in order to point to Stalin's reports, influence the press, and sow discord among the Allies. However, some Polish journalists did not believe the Nazis and conducted their own investigation. Some of the documents confirming the crimes of the Nazis were prepared for the Nuremberg Tribunal, where the Nazis were tried. However, under strange circumstances, everyone who tried in any way to whitewash Stalin's regime at that time began to die. In a surprising way, documents disappeared, as did everyone who was in any way involved in investigating this tragedy. Nevertheless, the Nuremberg International Military Tribunal brought charges for the Katyn crime against Hermann Göring, the second-ranking Nazi, and Alfred Jodl, who served as chief of the Wehrmacht High Command. These are facts documented by official records. It's hard to believe that the Soviet army was involved in this execution, especially since the Nazi allies have an even more terrible tragedy involving the Poles on their record. This is the Volhynia massacre, which many people are now trying not to remember. At the same time, this event is thoroughly confirmed and documented all over the world. Turned out not to be a man. In Jerusalem, archaeologists made an unexpected discovery while studying the burial of the ascetic monk. It turned out that the remains belonged to a woman, which was unusual for monastic practices of that time. The grave was found in Khirbet el-Masaneh, where a Byzantine monastery was located in the 4th-7th centuries AD. Heavy iron shackles about 10 centimeter diameter were found around the skeleton, which initially led scientists to assume that the buried person was a man. However, analysis of the tooth enamel confirmed that it was a woman. This fact overturns the understanding of asceticism in the Byzantine Empire. Although there are written sources about female ascetics, such as Melania the Elder and Melania the Roman, archaeological evidence of such practices is extremely rare. The iron shackles indicate extreme forms of self-restraint in the pursuit of spiritual perfection. Until now, it was believed that such practices were exclusively male. The monastery was located on the pilgrimage route to Jerusalem, which made it an important center not only for prayer but also a refuge for travelers. The discovery of this burial suggests that women played a more significant role in monastic communities than previously thought. The Risen Telemon. This unique atlas from the Temple of Zeus in the ancient city of Agrigento in Sicily is one of the most impressive examples of monumental sculpture from the 5th century BC. The temple, built in the Doric style, was considered one of the largest temples of the ancient world, and its architecture reflected the power of Greek civilization. The telemons, which served as supports, had symbolic significance, representing titanic strength that held up the sky or the immense weight of the architectural structure. These giant statues, about 7.5 meters tall, were impressive both for their detail and their size. One of the telemons was restored and placed in its original location, demonstrating the complexity of the engineering and artistic solutions of the ancient masters. But myths and mysteries surround the atlas. Some researchers believe that the images of the Titans could reflect ancient myths about the confrontation between gods and giants, and their position in the temple could symbolize their subjugation. Others believe that such size and shape could have been used as images of extraterrestrial beings, in which the ancient inhabitants believed. The ancient necropolis of Persian kings. Before you is one of the most impressive bas-reliefs of ancient Persia. The depiction of the victory of Shahanshah Shapur over the Roman Emperor Valerian. This monument is located in Nakhchi-Rustam, the ancient necropolis of Persian kings in Iran. On the bas-relief, Shapur Furs is sitting on a horse in luxurious armor, and in front of him, kneeling, is Philip the Arab, the Roman emperor who made peace with the Persians. But most importantly, he is holding the captive Valerian in his grasp. This was the only time in history when a Roman emperor was taken prisoner. After the defeat at the Battle of Edessa in 260, Valerian never managed to return. According to different versions, he died in captivity or was killed. This bas-relief is not just a historical monument, but a symbol of the greatness of the Persian Empire. It reminded everyone who passed by that the Romans, the main power of that time, suffered a humiliating defeat. The Altamira Cave. In the province of Cantabria in Spain, there is one of the most famous caves with prehistoric art in the world. These polychrome cave paintings, which are between 15 and 36,000 years old, belong to the Magdalenian culture of the late Paleolithic. On the walls of the cave, there are realistic scenes with animals such as bison, horses, and deer, created using charcoal and natural pigments. In addition to animals, you can also see handprints here, which gives this place not only artistic, but also deep symbolic value. The cave was accidentally discovered in 1868 by a local resident, Modesto Cubillas. However, it gained worldwide fame thanks to the research of Marcelino Sanz de Sautuola at the end of the 19th century. His work helped convince the whole world that these works of art were created by prehistoric humans, because for a long time scientists considered these drawings to be modern. The Altamira Cave offers a unique opportunity to look at the art and life of ancient people. The complexity and expressiveness of the drawings testify to the advanced culture and creativity of the prehistoric artists. Currently, access to the original cave is restricted to preserve these unique works of art, but nearby there is a museum with an exact replica of the drawings, allowing visitors to experience the grandeur of this ancient gallery. The oldest shipyard. Underwater archaeologists from the Maritime Archaeology Trust continue to delight us with new discoveries. This time, they have most likely managed to find a workshop, the oldest shipyard in the world. According to preliminary estimates, it is 8,000 years old. Off the coast of the Isle of Wight, deep underwater, archaeologists found a man-made wooden shipyard built by people of the Stone Age. They didn't build yachts or aircraft carriers at this shipyard. Stone Age people built fishing boats there. Previously, the oldest known shipyard was 5,500 years old, but at this shipyard, they used technologies that could be called ahead of their time. This confirms the fact that either people in ancient times had much more knowledge than we think, or modern dating methods don't work at all. At the oldest shipyard, advanced wood processing technology was used. That's why this site is very important for maritime archaeology and for understanding the development of our civilization. The shipyard was discovered at a depth of 11 meters, and 8,000 years ago, this area was dry land and covered with vegetation. In fact, the shipyard was discovered back in 2005, but only now have technologies made it possible to create a three-dimensional model of this structure for further study. It's hard to believe, but it's a fact. People in the Stone Age built boats using their own shipyard. What kind of technologies and knowledge did people in ancient times have? I'm absolutely sure that in the past it was very difficult for them to travel from the Isle of Wight to the island of Taiwan, but we can do it in just a few seconds. A girl was infected with a medieval curse. Do you think it's possible in the modern world to literally travel back to the Middle Ages? And I'm not talking about a reenactment festival, but about a truly creepy phenomenon. In the Middle Ages, people suffered from the mysterious disease known as St. Anthony's fire, also called witches' convulsions. The symptoms were terrifying: convulsions, bloody vomiting, psychosis, and in severe cases, gangrene of the limbs. The infected were often thought to be possessed by demons. In reality, the cause was simple: ergot poisoning caused by a parasitic fungus that infects rye. Bread made from contaminated grain caused mass epidemics throughout Europe and even in Russia. The last major case was recorded in 1951 in France when 250 people fell ill and 4 died. It seemed the disease was a thing of the past, but recently an American girl felt a severe burning sensation in her legs. Doctors were puzzled. The tissues in her limb began to die. Only after long research did it turn out that she had been poisoned by ergot, getting a real blast from the Middle Ages. Modern technology has almost eliminated such cases. But as we can see, history can repeat itself. $1 million to whoever deciphers the ancient script. The writings of the ancient Indus Valley civilization remain undeciphered to this day. Recently, Indian official Mudwell Karuna Nithi Stalin offered $1 million for their decipherment. According to the Hindustan Times, this impressive reward is meant to inspire archaeologists, linguists, and cryptographers. The head of Tamil Nadu noted that despite centuries of research, no progress has been made in understanding these mysterious signs, likely linked to the Tamil language. The strange symbols of the Indus civilization, discovered back in 1920 by Sir John Marshall, remain an unsolved mystery. It was at that time that Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro were excavated, but the key to their script still hasn't been found. Hitler's Wolf's Lair. In the deep forests of Poland, there is a mysterious place known as the Wolf's Lair. This is not just a forest, but an entire underground city with secret bunkers, where Hitler and his closest associates spent a lot of time during the war. Imagine underground houses where big plans were discussed and mysterious strategies were devised. Archaeologists, like detectives, dig through these places and find things that tell us about the lives of the Nazis at that time. They found personal belongings, maps, and even old letters that seem to whisper stories from the past. These items help us learn how the people who made the plans for the war actually lived and what they thought. Around 200 structures were built on an area of 250 hectares. These included bomb shelters, lighter concrete and brick buildings, and wooden barracks. The headquarters had 2 airstrips and a railway station. The walls of the buildings were covered with a mixture of algae and green paint, which, when a solution was added, turned into a green, naturally uneven and porous plaster. A very sophisticated psychological camouflage was also used. Specifically, the people who worked on the construction of the Wolf's Lair had civilian passports. Nowadays, you can visit the Wolf's Lair as a tourist. For a small fee, you can visit the places where Hitler and his entire entourage actually lived. But there is another area of concern. It's free for anyone who wants to visit. Ancient, tiny people in Taiwan. Taiwan is a very interesting island located about 130 to 220 kilometers east of China. The history of Taiwan's indigenous population, the Austronesians, goes back 5,000 years. But according to legends and stories told by local villagers, before the Austronesians, there was another, no less interesting civilization living here. They are often called pygmies or tiny people. They had dark skin and curly hair, and their most distinctive feature, as you might have guessed, was their short stature. All information about them was based only on fables and legends. But a very important event happened quite recently. In early October of this year, scientists proved the existence of tiny people in Taiwan. An article was published in the journal World Archaeology, claiming that archaeologists found the remains of ancient people in a cave in southeastern Taiwan. These remains belong to the Negritos. This ethnic group still lives in the Philippines, on the Malay Peninsula, and the Andaman Islands. The term Negritos is a direct Spanish translation meaning little black, and it is a widely accepted scientific and historical name for this ethnic group. The Negritos are direct descendants of the first people of Sundaland. For scientists, studying these remains is very important because these people most likely migrated from Africa. After conducting the research, scientists determined that the possible height of these tiny people was 139 centimeters. The first people arrived on the island 30,000 years ago, when there was a land corridor between mainland China and Taiwan. But 10,000 years ago, the corridor went underwater. The legend of the Negrito people in Taiwan is quite interesting. Among the ethnic groups, about half of the Austronesians considered the Negritos enemies, while the other half considered them allies, neutrals, or ancestors. However, one ethnic group, the Saisiat, had surprisingly complex relations with the Negritos. The Saisiat are a small population that still exists in Taiwan and have a tradition called Pasta-ai, a ritual dedicated to honoring short people. According to legend, the ancient Saisiat and the little Ta'ai once lived side by side. The Ta'ai taught their neighbors medicine, singing, dancing, and various other cultural traditions. However, the Ta'ai men harassed the Saisiat women, which angered the Saisiat, and they killed almost all of the Ta'ai people. After this event, they suffered a terrible famine, and they thought that they were punished by the vengeful spirit of the pygmies. Since then, they began to hold the Pasta-ai ritual, in which they ask for forgiveness for the sins of their ancestors. Around that time, the tiny people ceased to exist, and long before the existence of the human race, our planet was inhabited by giant monsters, and the tooth of one such giant was found on the shore by a little boy, an artifact made from a hippopotamus tooth. Archaeologists discovered in Spain the oldest artifact made from a hippopotamus tooth. This find, dated to the second quarter of the 3rd millennium BC, confirms the existence of trade connections between the Pyrenees, Africa, and the Middle East as far back as 4,500 years ago. The rare item was found among artifacts from the Bobila Majorelle settlement in Barcelona, which belonged to the Veraza culture. The find is about 10 centimeters long, with one end pointed and the other broken. Scientists suggest that it is a tool, possibly related to textile production. Analysis showed that the artifact was made not from a fossilized tooth, but from a fresh hippopotamus tooth. Traces of red pigment mixed with organic substances, possibly animal fat or egg white, have been preserved on its surface. Hidden essence. This unique clay figure belonging to the Maya culture was found in the Petén region of Guatemala and dates back to the Classic period. The depicted person is sitting in a pose of deep contemplation or a ritual gesture with open palms, symbolizing an offering or an appeal to the gods. He is wearing a mask on his head, which brings to mind modern helmets or even spacesuits, making this artifact the subject of much speculation. The mask could have symbolized a connection with the other world or served as part of a ceremonial costume intended to imitate gods or spirits. However, in its unusual features, some researchers see references to contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. Maya legends often mention celestial beings who brought knowledge from other worlds, and such iconography could be a symbolic representation of these traditions. The figure also features ornaments, a massive medallion, and bracelets, which indicate the high status of the person depicted. It is possible that this was a figure of a priest or shaman performing an important ritual role. Jade cicada. Before you is a jade cicada created during the Western Zhou dynasty. This artifact is not just an ornament. It had a deep symbolic meaning. In Chinese culture, the cicada was considered a symbol of rebirth and immortality, while jade was seen as the stone of eternity. This figurine could be placed in the deceased's mouth before burial, believed to help the soul enter the afterlife and be reborn. The traces of red paint found on the artifact are also important. The color red symbolized protection and good luck. The finest carving demonstrates the high level of skill of ancient Chinese craftsmen. Pay attention to the eyes, the folded legs, and the patterns that give the figurine an almost mystical appearance. Such items were part of rituals and reflected the religious beliefs of people of that era. Drawings of eerie people with huge heads. Now we will go to central Tanzania, where ancient artists left us strange drawings in a cave. In the Swego Game Reserve, archaeologists found a uniquely painted rock. There, researchers discovered remnants of drawings, some of which have completely disappeared. But one drawing has been preserved quite well, although it raises many questions. In the Amahi 4 cave, drawings of humanoid figures with large heads were discovered. According to archaeologists, this cave is several hundred years old, but it's difficult to determine exactly when these drawings appeared here. Researchers believe that these are buffalo heads. In the Sandawa culture, buffaloes were an important part of rituals. However, there were no people with buffalo heads in their history, although the horns of these figures definitely resemble those of buffaloes. Not far from this place, archaeologists found 2 more similar drawings of creepy humanoid creatures with huge heads. All of them are very similar to each other. So far, archaeologists cannot give a definite answer as to what the ancient artists were trying to depict, but scientists have found a small clue. In the Kondoa region, where the drawings were found on the rock, the Sandawa people live, and they use various drawings for their rituals. Perhaps they will help archaeologists explain the origin of these drawings. From Tanzania, we will head to the Middle East, to another cave where the discoveries are no less impressive. Gold jewelry. Here are exquisite gold ear ornaments created in the 1st century BC during the Satavahana dynasty in the Andhra Pradesh region, India. These items exemplify the outstanding craftsmanship of ancient jewelers who use complex gold techniques like granulation and embossing. The ornaments have a massive curved shape and are richly decorated. You can see images of animals on them, such as a horse and a lion, which in Indian culture symbolize strength, power, and protection. The detailing is impressive. Every bead, every line is crafted with incredible precision. Such earrings were worn by noble women and possibly even members of the royal family. Today, these artifacts are an invaluable legacy of ancient Indian jewelry art. The stone spheres of Costa Rica, known as the Diquís spheres, are unique archaeological artifacts discovered in the Diquís River Delta on Caño Island. It is a collection of more than 300 petrospheres, created from gabbro, a volcanic rock similar in composition to granite. The diameter of the spheres ranges from a few centimeters to more than 2 meters, and their weight can reach up to 15 tons. These spheres were created by the pre-Hispanic Diquís culture, which existed from 700 to 1530 AD. Although their exact dating and methods of manufacture are still debated among researchers, the stone spheres of Costa Rica are among the most famous stone artworks in the Istmo-Colombian region. Although their purpose remains unclear, there are several hypotheses. Some scholars suggest that the spheres were lined up along roads or approaches to the dwellings of chiefs, serving as symbols of status and power. Others believe that they may have had astronomical or ritual significance, possibly connected to the spiritual or cosmological beliefs of the Diquís culture. The technology used to create these stone spheres remains a mystery. It is known that they were artificially polished to an almost perfect spherical shape. However, the exact tools and methods are still unknown. As a result of natural processes and human intervention, many of the spheres have been moved from their original locations, which makes it difficult to further study their original function and symbolism. Thousands of strange pits in Peru. In Peru, archaeologists find hundreds and even thousands of artifacts and various discoveries that cannot be explained. To be honest, many of these discoveries are fakes, and the creators of these finds are simply making money off gullible people. In the Pisco Valley, archaeologists have discovered thousands of pits. The Peruvians themselves call them by different names: Monte Sierpe, which translates as Serpent Mountain, and Sierra Cerro Viruela, which literally means Smallpox Hill, or simply the strip of holes. But the most unusual name was invented online. They call it the Alien Egg Incubator. These pits are located in a very hard-to-reach place, so there are very few scientists who have managed to visit here. That's why it's still impossible to explain the origin of the holes. They were first seen while flying in an airplane in the 1930s. In the 1950s, the first scientific expedition went here, and they managed to measure the size and count the number of pits. The strip of holes stretched for 1.5 kilometers, and the width of the strip was from 14 to 20 meters. But the number of pits shocked the researchers. There were more than 5,000 of them. The first idea that came to the scientists was that it was an ancient mass burial site. So even more questions arose. The pits were from 0.5 meter to 1 meter deep. There are no traces of humans nearby, no artifacts from ancient civilizations. There's absolutely nothing that could provide even the slightest clue to explain this place. Archaeologists have different theories about the origin of the pits, but most of them are pseudoscientific. One thing is certain: these pits are at least hundreds of years old, and most likely they were created by people. You can write your own guesses in the comments about what they might have been used for in the past. Memorial marks on the bricks. Mehrangarh Fort in Jodhpur is one of the most majestic structures in India. But behind its beauty lie dark pages of history. On the inner gates of Lohapole, you can still see 15 imprints of women's hands, silent witnesses of the tragic tradition of sati. Sati is an ancient Hindu ritual in which widows were expected to burn on their husband's funeral pyre. Sometimes women did this voluntarily, but more often they were forced. This practice was officially banned by the British in 1829. But in India, it persisted until the 20th century. In 1843, after the death of Maharaja Man Singh, his wives left handprints on the wall before stepping into the fire. However, this isn't the only instance in the fort's history. In 1731, 6 wives and 58 concubines of Maharaja Ajit Singh also ended their lives in the flames. Tragedy started as soon as the fortress was founded. In the 15th century, the Saint Chidyavali Baba cursed Rao Jodha, declaring that his lands would suffer from eternal droughts. To lift the curse, the king ordered a resident, Rajaram Meghwal, to be walled up alive in the fort's walls. But the curse still seems to be in effect. Here, tourists have fallen to their deaths here, and in 2008, during a stampede at the Chamunda Devi temple, hundreds of people were killed or injured. The statue of a mongoose from ancient Egypt is not only charming, but also a find of mystical significance. In ancient Egyptian mythology, the mongoose was associated with divine forces of light and protection. In Heliopolis, the center of the cult of the sun god Ra, the mongoose symbolized the victory of light over darkness. According to myths, the god Ra, taking the form of a mongoose, fought Apophis, the serpent of chaos who threatened the solar bark. This bronze statue with a solar disk on its head symbolizes solar energy and immortality. Such artifacts were often placed in temples or used in rituals for protection against evil. Interestingly, some researchers suggest that the mongoose, with its ability to hunt snakes, also symbolized the skill to overcome difficulties and defeat enemies, both spiritual and physical. Many similar figurines have been found in tombs, where they likely served as amulets to help the souls of the deceased overcome dangers in the afterlife. Mongooses, which became part of sacred Egyptian symbolism, remain a reminder of the deep connections between nature, religion, and the spiritual philosophy of this ancient city. A metal rod. How can this mysterious artifact be explained? Inside a Mazong stone found in the Chinese mountains, collector Jiling Wang discovered a threaded metal rod resembling a screw. But what's most strange is that solid rock formed around it, suggesting that the find could be millions of years old. Some have suggested that it's a meteorite with an alien artifact inside. Others believe it's an ancient man-made object that, for unknown reasons, ended up in the ground and fossilized. Skeptics, on the other hand, believe that it's just a rare natural formation and the screw is simply a fossilized marine organism. The most interesting part is that similar discoveries have been found worldwide. Is this coincidence or proof of ancient, unknown technology? For now, this artifact remains one of the most mysterious archaeological enigmas. 9 commandments out of 10. The oldest known stone tablet with 9 out of 10 commandments carved on it is being prepared for auction. Experts suggest that the price could reach $12 million. The marble tablet dates back to between 300 and 500 AD, and it was discovered in 1913 during the construction of a railway on the southern coast of modern-day Israel, not far from the places where early synagogues, mosques, and churches were located. On a marble slab about 2 feet tall and weighing 115 pounds, there are 20 lines of text in Paleo-Hebrew. It first appeared on the market in 2016 and was sold for $850,000. For a long time after its discovery, the importance of the slab remained unclear. At one point, it was even used as a tile at the entrance to a house, which caused some of the letters to become worn. In 1943, archaeologist Ick Kaplan acquired the slab and identified it as a Samaritan Decalogue, created by the Samaritans, an ancient religious group whose beliefs were based on the Old Testament but differed from Judaism. The text on the slab almost completely matches the biblical commandments familiar to both Christians and Jews. However, one of the commandments, "Do not take the Lord's name in vain," is missing. Instead, there is an instruction to worship on Mount Gerizim, which reflects the religious beliefs of the Samaritans. Are these findings really 300 million years old? From time to time, miners find strange artifacts in coal seams that apparently were created by intelligent beings. This raises uncomfortable questions for science because the age of these layers is estimated at 300 million years. How could objects that were clearly made by hand end up there? After all, at that time the Earth was inhabited only by giant insects and the first reptiles, and there was no question of humans, dinosaurs, or, even more so, advanced technologies. However, the discoveries continue to amaze. In 1912, an iron kettle was extracted from a coal seam in Oklahoma, and in 1851, a vase made of zinc and silver was discovered in Massachusetts. With the rock it was found in being 534 million years old. In Russia, a metal rod resembling a gear rack was found, made of aluminum with an admixture of magnesium. Its origin is even more mysterious. Aluminum was only discovered in 1825, while the coal in which it was found is over 300 million years old. Scientists found that the metal was impregnated with carbon, which confirms its incredible age. But if that's the case, who made it? Some believe that these discoveries are traces of a vanished civilization that existed long before us, but was wiped from the face of the planet by a global cataclysm. Others suggest that the objects could have been left by aliens or even time travelers. Skeptics, in turn, are convinced that this is either a hoax or mistakes in dating. There is also a theory that coal was formed not millions of years ago, but just a few thousand years ago under the influence of deep gases and pressure. If that's the case, the artifacts may turn out to be not so ancient after all. Antikythera mechanism. It's impossible not to mention the most unique archaeological discovery, which many consider to be the first known analog computer, the Antikythera mechanism. This complex device was created to predict astronomical events, such as the positions of the planets and solar eclipses, and it could track cycles, including the 4-year period of the Olympic Games. It also allowed for precise calculation of lunar phases and solar years. Its functionality and complexity are astonishing, considering it was created more than 2,000 years ago, between 150 and 100 BC. The Antikythera mechanism was discovered in 1901 among the wreckage of an ancient ship that sank near the Greek island of Antikythera. Its discovery was a real sensation because the mechanism consists of numerous bronze gears and wheels, making it incredibly complex for its time. The largest gear in the device has a diameter of about 13 centimeters, and the overall construction indicates a high level of skill among ancient engineers. Scientists are still studying this artifact, using modern technology such as X-ray imaging and 3D scanning to uncover all its functions. The Antikythera mechanism is considered evidence that the ancient Greeks possessed knowledge and technologies that were lost for many centuries afterward. The mystery of the Herculaneum scroll. Thanks to artificial intelligence and advanced X-ray technologies, scientists have managed to decipher the text of one of the ancient Herculaneum scrolls for the first time. These unique artifacts, which survived the eruption of Vesuvius in 79 AD, remained a mystery for almost 2,000 years. The scrolls were discovered in the 1750s among the ruins of a Roman villa. However, after the disaster, they turned into charred, fragile rolls that could not be unrolled without being destroyed. Most of them are kept in the National Library of Naples, and a few of them are in Oxford. In 2023, the Vesuvius Challenge competition was launched, aimed at finding technologies to decipher these texts. Recently, researchers announced a major breakthrough. Using high-energy X-ray scanning and artificial intelligence algorithms, it was possible to create the first image of the inside of the scroll from Oxford. Scientists have already identified several words, one of which is the Greek word for disgust. Although the text is still fragmentary, the method continues to improve. In Naples, more than 1,000 similar scrolls are kept, and now researchers have hope of deciphering them. The Cypriot Terracotta Army. In November 1929, a priest named Procopius from the village of Agia Irina, near Morphu, was working in a field when he accidentally came across a clay figurine of a person. Realizing the value of the find, he protected it from being looted and informed the scientists. Thus began the story of the Cypriot Terracotta Army, a unique open-air sanctuary where about 2,000 clay statues were arranged in a semicircle around the altar. According to the Swedish Archaeological expedition, among the statues there were warriors in armor, chariots, figures of bulls, and even bronze miniatures. Professor Theodoros Mavroyiannis dates the main finds to the period from 650 to 625 BC, pointing to the details of the clothing and the political situation of that time in the Mediterranean. Out of the 2,000 statues found, 1,500 are now kept in the Stockholm Museum of Mediterranean and Near Eastern Antiquities, and the rest are in the Cyprus Museum in Nicosia. Most residents of Cyprus consider the removal of the artifacts to be looting and demand that they be returned to their homeland. A 2,000-year-old fig. Irish archaeologists made an unexpected discovery when they found the charred remains of a 2,000-year-old fig at Drumana Point, north of Dublin. This find became important evidence that the Roman Empire, which had previously considered Ireland unreachable, still managed to influence its culture. Drumana Point was a key point of contact between Ireland and England, which was under Roman rule. Among the finds made by researchers from University College Dublin, the fig turned out to be the most surprising. The fruit's seeds confirmed that it was brought to the island in an era when such exotic fruits were considered a rarity. Previously, figs had only been found in medieval layers in Ireland, but this specimen is the oldest known. In addition to figs, traces of emmer wheat were found, a grain widely used in Roman Britain but rare in Ireland. These findings show that the Romans not only traded goods, but also brought their way of life. Archaeologist Christian Baker said that people in Ireland at that time enjoyed emmer wheat bread, olive oil, wine, and also used glass and ceramic dishes, brooches, and beads. Figs, first cultivated in eastern Turkey and northern India, made their way to the Mediterranean via ancient trade routes, where they became an important part of the Roman diet. Researchers believe that figs and emmer wheat could have been brought through Roman Chester, a major trading hub in Britain. 2,500-year-old Olmec reliefs. The oldest civilization in Mesoamerica is the Olmecs. To be precise, it is the oldest civilization that we know of. And to be even more precise, we know very little about them. The rise of their civilization was approximately from 1600 BC to 400 BC. They lived along the Gulf of Mexico, where the states of Tabasco and Veracruz are now located. Archaeologists themselves don't even know what these people called themselves. That's why the word Olmecs is a Nahuatl word, the language of the Aztecs, and it means rubber people. These people practiced ritual bloodletting. They loved playing ball games and they drank chocolate. They were also the ancestors of the Maya, about whom the scientific world knows much more. The Olmecs also carved giant stone heads out of volcanic rock. This became their calling card. All the structures discovered by archaeologists were deliberately destroyed. That means that more than 2,000 years ago, someone deliberately tried to wipe an entire people and all their buildings off the face of the earth. Recently, archaeologists discovered Olmec reliefs that were made of limestone. They were about 1.5 meters in diameter and weighed 700 kilograms. The stone reliefs were found in the municipality of Tenosique in Tabasco, in the southeast of Mexico. It is believed that the reliefs depict local Olmec rulers during ritual ceremonies. It is possible that these people are in a pose that reduces the flow of blood and oxygen to the brain, causing a trance-like state. From the stone heads of Mesoamerican rulers, let's move to Africa, where a pink stone sarcophagus, skin, and scales on an ancient skeleton await us. Paleontologists studied an amazingly well-preserved plesiosaur skeleton that was found in Germany back in 1940, and the fossil lay for decades in the museum garden until, in 2020, scientists discovered that it preserved soft tissues, skin, and even cell nuclei. This discovery helps us better understand the appearance of ancient marine reptiles that lived 183 million years ago. The body of the plesiosaur was sealed in the Posidonia shales, which allowed the skin to be preserved along the spine and on the flipper. It turned out to be thicker than previously thought and resembled the skin of sea turtles. Microscopic analysis showed that the tissue structure matches that of modern reptiles. The most amazing discovery was the scales on the flipper. They resemble the scales of snakes and lizards and could have helped the plesiosaur either when moving along the bottom or when maneuvering in the water. Scientists compare the appearance of this reptile to a hybrid of a leatherback and a green turtle. The appearance of long-necked plesiosaurs is still a subject of debate, but this discovery provides the first real data about what they looked like. The Spanish Stonehenge. This amazing megalithic monument known as the Spanish Stonehenge is located on the banks of the Tagus River in Spain. Its age is estimated at about 7,000 years, which makes it 2,000 years older than the famous Stonehenge in England and older than the Egyptian pyramids. The complex consists of more than 100 upright granite stones forming a circle and ellipses. Officially, this site is called the Guadalpirram Dolmen, and its purpose still remains a mystery. Scientists suggest that it could have served as a place for rituals, a temple, or possibly even an astronomical observatory. The stones are arranged in such a way that their orientation is connected to the position of the sun during certain times of the year. This confirms that the ancient builders had deep knowledge of astronomy. For a long time, the dolmen was underwater due to the construction of a dam in 1963, and only a recent drought allowed archaeologists and researchers to take another look at this amazing site. What inspired ancient people to create such a grand structure? It's like it's alive. In the famous Batagay crater, which is called the Gates of Hell, the amazingly well-preserved remains of a woolly mammoth calf have been discovered. The female, who was named Yana, lived more than 50,000 years ago and probably died from a fatal back injury during the Ice Age. At the time of her death, the mammoth calf was about 1 year old. Her height at the withers was 1.2 meters, and her weight was about 180 kilograms. Among the 7 known woolly mammoth calves, Yana stands out for her exceptional preservation. Her trunk, lips, ears, and eye sockets remained almost untouched, which is very rare. According to the scientist Maxim Cheprasov, the mammoth's head was perfectly preserved, but the back part of the body was damaged, possibly due to a fall. The front half of the baby mammoth had already thawed halfway out of the permafrost when it was discovered by local residents. The Batagay crater is considered the largest permafrost collapse in the world, and its thawing releases about 5,000 tons of carbon each year. A foal of the Lena horse was also found here, which was 42,170 years old. Discovered in the Mogok area of Myanmar in 2010, Kyathawite is possibly the rarest mineral on Earth, with only one known specimen. This reddish-orange crystal, weighing only 1.61 carats, or 0.3 grams, was initially unnoticed by the miner who was searching for sapphire. Only after analysis conducted by Dr. Kyathu did the mineral receive its name, and in 2015 it was recognized as a new mineral by the International Mineralogical Association. Kyathawite consists of an oxide of bismuth and antimony. Despite the seemingly simple composition, its atomic structure is unique, which makes the mineral exceptional. Another unusual property is its high density, which is 8 times greater than that of water. These characteristics, along with the rare geological conditions of its formation, make Kyathawite a real mystery for scientists. The mineral formed in pegmatite, an igneous rock created during the final stages of magma crystallization. Today, the unique specimen of Kyathawite is kept at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County, where it is carefully preserved as a scientific treasure. Kyathawite remains a unique testament to the geological processes that shaped the Earth millions of years ago. Although synthetic versions of the mineral are possible, natural Kyathawite is of great value to science, helping us understand tectonic shifts and the evolution of minerals on our planet. Golden torque. In the United Kingdom, an enthusiast with a metal detector discovered a golden torque that is 3,000 years old. The ancient ornament, found in a field near the Stour River in Essex, turned out to be very similar to artifacts registered in this region. Torques, or rigid neck rings, are massive gold necklaces that symbolize the high status of their owner. The specimen found dates back to the Middle Bronze Age. Analysis showed that the item is made of 75% gold, 18% silver, and contains a small amount of copper. The ornament, measuring 14.7 centimeters in length, is made from a rectangular gold rod. The craftsman carved 4 deep grooves into it and then twisted the metal, giving it a unique shape. According to Laurie Rodzerson, a specialist in ancient finds, the artifact looks as if it was made yesterday. Working with such a soft metal required great skill because twisting it too much could tear the gold. The Voynich manuscript is one of the most mysterious manuscripts in history. It is an illustrated codex written in an unknown language, or cipher, that has not yet been deciphered. According to the results of carbon analysis of the parchment, its creation dates back to the period between 1404 and 1438. Despite research, its origin, authorship, and purpose remain unknown, which gives rise to many theories and speculations. The manuscript is named after the Polish antiquarian Wilfrid Fred Voynich, who acquired it in 1912. It consists of more than 240 pages, with mysterious texts and illustrations that depict bizarre plants, astronomical diagrams, strange people, and unknown chemical processes. The unique language of the manuscript has no analogs, and the script and structure of the text have led to the emergence of many hypotheses. Some scholars suggest that it may be an encoded message created using complex cryptography, while others believe that the manuscript represents a description of a natural or artificial language. There is a theory that the manuscript could have been a hoax created to confuse scholars and seekers of ancient knowledge. Other theories suggest that it is a scientific or medical reference book, possibly dedicated to alchemy or botany. Some even believe that the Voynich manuscript is a work of speculative fiction or mythopoeia that still awaits decipherment. Beaded dress. Before you is one of the rarest ancient Egyptian garments, a beaded dress dating back to around 2550 BC, the era of the 4th dynasty. This was the time of the construction of the Great Pyramids, and such outfits were worn by noble women, possibly even priestesses. The dress consists of a mesh of hundreds of small faience beads, creating the effect of scales or fish skin. It was worn over a thin linen tunic, which made the look not only elegant but also symbolically significant. The Egyptians believed that such clothing could grant protection and favor from the gods. It's amazing that the dress has been preserved in this condition for thousands of years. This is not just an item of clothing, but an artifact that gives us insight into the fashion, traditions, and aesthetics of the ancient Egyptian elite. Today, it is kept in a museum and is one of the most outstanding examples of ancient textile art. Collection of paintings. In 2012, a discovery in Munich shook the global art world. In a modest-sized apartment, a collection of paintings confiscated by the Nazis was found, estimated to be worth $1 billion. Among the works were pieces by masters such as Marc Chagall, Pablo Picasso, and Henri Matisse. This collection represents a lost treasure of European art, many of which were considered missing for decades. The paintings fell into the hands of the Nazis as a result of a large-scale campaign to confiscate works of art that the regime considered degenerate or belonging to Jewish families. Many of these works were taken from their owners in the pre-war and wartime years, and after the war were considered lost or destroyed. The discovery of this collection was made possible by an investigation by the German authorities, who were investigating a case of tax fraud. The investigation led to a search of an apartment where these priceless works of art were discovered. The collection included both. There were well-known masterpieces, as well as lesser-known works, that nevertheless have great artistic and historical value. The discovery caused an international stir as it raised questions about ownership rights, restitution, and moral responsibility. For many descendants of Jewish families who were deprived of their treasures by the Nazis, this discovery offered hope for the return of lost works of art that have become symbols of their history and heritage. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. 2 years ago, David Dunn from the British town of Sapcote, Leicestershire, got interested in metal detecting to spend more time outdoors. One day, his intuition told him to return to a pasture he had already visited. After several hours of searching, his device gave a faint signal. In the ground, David found 2 Roman coins, and then digging down to 60 centimeters, he uncovered a total of 50 ancient silver coins. The oldest of them date back to the reign of Carausius, who ruled Britain during the late Roman Empire. The rest were minted during the reigns of Electus, Diocletian, and Maximian, which means the hoard is at least 1,700 years old. Discoveries like this happen once in a lifetime. The coins will go to auction and are expected to bring David about $1,800. However, he says that money is not the most important thing for him. The composition of the ritual cocktail. For the first time, scientists have been able to study organic residues inside an ancient vessel that is 2,000 years old. The study showed that the ancient Egyptians consumed a special ritual cocktail that included fruits, nuts, alcohol, biological fluids, and psychoactive substances. The vessel, known as the Besmug, was studied using innovative technology developed by scientists from the University of South Florida in collaboration with colleagues from Italy. This is the first time that the complete chemical composition of a ritual drink has been identified, including its psychoactive and medicinal components. The Besmugs were dedicated to the Egyptian god Bes himself, the patron of fertility, healing, and protection. He was depicted with a feathered crown, large eyes, and a tail. Such vessels were used from the 16th century BC to the 5th century AD, and the specimen being studied belongs to the Ptolemaic period. Analysis revealed traces of honey, grapes, sesame, pine nuts, licorice, and hallucinogenic components. Scientists suggest that the mixture was used in magical rituals. People were looking for confirmation of a successful pregnancy, since in ancient times it was considered a dangerous and unpredictable process. Such a cocktail probably caused visions, helping to establish a connection with the deity. The smell of Egyptian mummies. Scientists have studied the smells of ancient Egyptian mummies for the first time, revealing unexpected details of the embalming process. The analysis showed that the mummies emit woody, spicy, and sweet aromas associated with the use of natural preservatives. The researchers studied 9 mummies, dating from the New Kingdom to the Byzantine period. Using gas chromatography and mass spectrometry, they determined the composition of the embalming substances: pine, cedar, and juniper resins, myrrh, frankincense, spices, herbs, vegetable oils, animal fat, and wax. According to experts, the discovery will help preserve ancient artifacts and also open up new opportunities for museums. Now, visitors will not only be able to see, but also to smell ancient Egypt, immersing themselves in the atmosphere of that era. Scents played an important role in Egyptian rituals. A pleasant aroma symbolized divinity and purity, while stench was associated with decay and impurity. Even after 5,000 years, mummies have retained their fragrance, highlighting the importance of this aspect in ancient culture. Armor made of 6,000 scales. Archaeologists in China's Jiangxi province made an astonishing discovery. In the tomb of Liu He, the ruler of Haihun from the Western Han Dynasty, a composite suit of scale armor was discovered. Its age exceeds 2,000 years. This find not only demonstrates the advanced level of craftsmanship during the Han era, but also fundamentally differs from the typical single-material armors of that time. According to the report from the Provincial Institute of Archaeology and Cultural Relics, the plates were made of lacquered iron, copper, and leather, with many of them being only 1 centimeter wide and just 0.2 centimeters thick. The restoration took about 2 years, with specialists assembling around 6,000 pieces. They were found stacked in the armory section of the tomb, next to swords and knives. According to Yan Jun, the leader of the excavation team, their arrangement and size demonstrate an incredible delicacy of craftsmanship that was previously unknown for Han Dynasty armor. A piece of cake. On February 10, 1840, Queen Victoria married Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. At their wedding, an impressive cake weighing about 136 kilograms was served. The 3-tiered treat was decorated with miniature bride and groom figurines in Roman attire, as well as an exquisite entourage made from refined sugar, which at that time was truly a luxurious and rare product. Inside, the cake was generously soaked in alcohol and filled with lemon, elderberry, sugar, and dried fruits. However, a problem arose. Victoria was on a diet, and the guests didn't seem hungry enough to tackle a cake weighing more than 100 kilograms. Therefore, at the end of the celebration, the Queen ordered the cake to be cut into small pieces, which were then placed in tin boxes and given to friends, relatives, and other honored guests. This is how the tradition of giving guests pieces of the wedding cake was born, a tradition that, even at the royal court, took the form of a keepsake gift. Many of the recipients of these souvenirs decided not to eat them, since it was a valuable gift from the Queen herself. Some slices remained untouched and have been preserved to this day. Today, pieces of Victoria's wedding cake are true relics. Several of them are in collections, Royal Trust, and one of these pieces was sold at auction in 2016 for £1,500 sterling. If that seems like a significant amount, then it is worth noting that in 1998, a piece of the wedding cake of King Edward VIII and Wallis Simpson, dated 1937, was sold at a Sotheby's auction for $29,900. But what's surprising is that Victoria's wedding cake has remained edible to this day thanks to its high alcohol content. Theoretically, it could still be tasted today, although most likely this will remain just a legend. Leap Castle, located 3 kilometers from the town of Roscrea, Ireland, is considered the most sinister place in the country. Built around 1250, it became home to the bloodthirsty O'Carroll clan. Betrayals, murders, and torture took place here, and numerous ghosts still roam its halls. The history of the castle began with a tragedy. Two brothers from the O'Bannon clan argued over power and decided to jump off a cliff to determine the winner. The survivor became the leader of the clan, and the castle was named Bennon's Leap. Later, the fortress was seized by the O'Carrolls, who were notorious for their cruelty. In 1532, during Mass, one of the O'Carrolls killed his brother, a priest, right at the altar. Since then, his ghost has wandered the bloody chapel, from whose windows light can sometimes be seen. In 1922, workers found an underground pit in the castle with the remains of about 150 people. In the Middle Ages, prisoners were thrown in here and simply forgotten. Some of the castle's ghosts are friendly. For example, Emily is a girl who died after falling from the castle wall. Witnesses say they see her falling, but she disappears right before hitting the ground. However, there is also a much more sinister entity, the Elemental, an ancient spirit that may have been summoned by druids. It appears rarely, but is considered the most dangerous inhabitant of the castle. Today, the castle is partially restored, but its dark history is still alive. Tours are held here, and many guests leave Leap with the feeling that someone is watching them. Would you like to visit a castle with ghosts? And could you spend at least one night alone in the castle? Write in the comments below the video and don't forget to give a thumbs up. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, everyone.